States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda of the March 19, 2012 regular meeting as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the consent agenda items.
Move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we have public participation.
Hi, Sharon Giesler from St. Genevieve, NEA. Just some things we have going on. The circus is coming to town on April 20th, and we're helping to sponsor that. And we're going to use the money that we make off of it for scholarships. We had a pancake breakfast in February. We saw some of your faces there, and I hope you had a good time. I know we did. Spring RA, which is our representative assembly, comes up in April, and 2 or 3 of us are going there. That's pretty much the business part of the year. And Read Across America went well this year. We had that in February also. And we had different things going. Cat and Hat visited St. Gen Elementary. We had people come in and read to the students. We had Wacky Wednesday going on and all kinds of things to encourage the students to read more and along that line. So we've been busy.
That was exciting when you got to come in and read. We enjoyed that. Okay, next for the public participation part, we have 2 of the candidates that, actually we have 3 of the candidates that are here, plus the incumbents, and we're going to give you a chance to talk. Actually, David is running on the ticket, and then Mr. Richard Ruloff, and Mr. John Webenmeyer are signing up for the seat that is left open by Mrs. Stolzer. So what we're going to ask for you guys is stand up and say a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the office or the position, and well, no more than 5 minutes. Does that help? And we'll start with you, David.
I don't need 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is David Bova. I'm running for the school board in the April 3rd election. If not elected, I would gladly accept this appointment to the school board. I was raised here in St. Genevieve County, so I lived most of my life here, and attended and graduated from St. Genevieve School District. Now I have 3 daughters, 1 who's graduated from St. Genevieve School District and 2 that are currently attending. So a very vested interest in the success of the school district. I also have a personal interest. I enjoy volunteering, enjoy being an active member of the community, enjoy education. Put those 3 things together, and short of having a teaching degree, which unfortunately I don't, I think the school board would be a good fit. I think a good portion of the community thinks it would be a good fit also. I ran the election last year. Though I did not receive one of the open spots, did garner approximately 450 votes. So I think the community supported me last year. The community hopefully will support me again this year, and the community would support the school board for appointing me to the school board. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and if not elected, would appreciate the appointment. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Ms. Joan Dowdry.
Hi, I'm Joan Dunsey. I'm currently on the board. I've been on the board for the past 9 years, and during the last 5 years I've served as vice president. I too am a graduate of St. Genevieve High School and a graduate of Southeast Missouri State with a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in accounting. I would like your support in the election, but if I'm not reelected, I would like to be considered for appointment to the board. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Jim Kirshner.
I'm Jim Kirshner. I've been on the school board now for 18 years. have something written, because I'm not too good at speaking. I would like to be considered for the board position vacated by Mrs. Stosur. It's been my honor and privilege to serve the school board for 18 years. I look forward to continuing to serve. St. Genevieve R2 School District is one of the best districts in the state of Missouri. I've served the district, and I want to put TLC, time, labor, and commitment to make it even better. So if I'm not elected, I would certainly like to remain and contribute to this board. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Richard Ruloff.
Hi, my name is Rick Rudloff. I'm a lifelong resident of the county. I now live south of Ozor, which I have been down there for since 1974. It's the first board meeting I've ever been to. And the reason why, I had a babysit while she was here. So, with that being said, this lady and I sitting beside me, between us, have had 7 children. And all of them have been educated here. And the district has did a fine job. There's my little girl over there. And enabled our children to carry on and go on in life and do some good things. And I think you folks have a good thing, and I would just like to contribute to it and help it and possibly inject some different things into it, a different perspective. I'm not an educator. I don't have a college education. I went a year, but I didn't really like it. So then I went to work, and I've been working out of Mississippi line for 38 years now. I'm getting close to retirement. So if you give me this opportunity, I'll do what it takes to do a good job, and I promise I won't let you down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Mr. John Whittemore.
Good evening. I think I know most of you up there, and obviously you've probably heard about me one way or another. I know I sent you a letter and that had all my qualifications, or a number of my qualifications, and I don't want to go over that again because obviously you can read it, and if you have questions, please feel free. Why I want to be on the school board, I spent my career here working with the kids, working for the kids. I miss the kids. I really like the opportunity to have some input into their education, into their lives, trying to influence them, and it's been too long since I've had that opportunity. If that's true, then why didn't I file back in December? Since December I've had, or not since December, but since June of last year I've had 3 eye surgeries. The latest was last week. And I really couldn't read very well until I had this latest one. So I couldn't go over the documentation that needs to be gone over by you folks whenever you have a meeting. You got to prepare for it. I know that, and you know that. And it wouldn't have been fair for me to try to participate and run when I may not be able to see. Like I said, I had surgery again Tuesday of last week, and I'm happy to say that that one is taken care of, and the next one's coming up in December, so I can see now. I was an alderman in St. Genevieve for 6 years, so I'm used to dealing with $1 million budgets and used to dealing with the public, so I do have that experience. This is an excellent district because of the work that you folks and the staff have done, and I would like to see it continue moving forward into this next century and just advance. There's no room to go back. We need to just keep advancing. Strong suit, probably my communicative abilities. I can probably speak and talk with almost anyone. My weakness, patience, and that's pretty typical of a lot of people. It's something I need to work on, I know. But I would be honored to help guide this district and work with you if I can be appointed. If you have any questions of me, of anything I wrote, I'd be happy to answer them now or at your leisure. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank all of you for your consideration for the school board. Okay, next is the report of the superintendent, Mr. Stewart.
We should probably announce that by our policy, the next board meeting, the board appoints somebody to
Okay.
that open session.
I never had that,
Well,
so
yeah.
it'd be next next meeting,
That's the reorganizational meeting after the election and that kind of thing.
the two that are elected will be up here, and then we will appoint someone.
The board would appoint into the reorganization. So, okay, that's what your policy calls for, so
So should they all be,
it's up to that, yeah.
oh, we hate to call you at home.
All right. Report of superintendent, you have some notes of appreciation in your board packet. There are no safety issues to be concerns that need to be stressed. Kindergarten registration this coming Saturday is the first day of kindergarten registration. That's at St. Genevieve Elementary. We're really assessing the number of students signing up, so we certainly encourage all parents that have students of the correct age for kindergarten to, if they're 5, before August the 1st. Okay, and that has changed many years, but anyway, if they're in the St. Genevieve Elementary area, they should call St. Genevieve Elementary to register those students for this Saturday. It'll be from 8 to 1 o'clock, and then the following Saturday on March the 31st, it'll be at Bloomsdale Elementary from 8 to 1 o'clock. And so we encourage people, so we have accurate numbers, so we know how many staff people we need and that kind of thing, as best as we can. We have testing coming up. The Terra Nova test is will be in a slot between April 2nd and 20th. Our MAP test is April 2nd through the 27th. And then the end of course exams are April 30th through May the 11th. Reminder that the annual school board elections are on April the 3rd, and that there's 3 candidates who are running for 2 spots. In the audience is Mr. Dave Bova, who's a candidate for the Board of Education, was pointed out, and then Mrs. Dunsey, who has served on the board for 9 years, and Mr. Kirshner, who has served on the board for 18 years. So that election. I want to remind everybody of our recognition and retirement banquet on May the 11th at 6 p.m. at the Elks. Construction update. Everything is moving along, but I am glad that we chose the day after Easter, or weekend after Easter, instead of the weekend before. Because when you get to the end of construction, especially as detailed as this construction is, it seems like there's all kinds of little loose things floating around. So we've been dodging raindrops, and so we're still waiting on some paving to take place. The curtain people were supposed to be here today. They had not shown up when I left the construction site about 4 o'clock, but we'll probably be here tomorrow. And so they're in shipment. All the lighting is up. It needs to be tweaked and modified yet, but on the stage, all the bars and all the curtains and everything are up. I'm waiting for the curtains. There's a variety of other aspects that are still going on concerning the lighting and concerning the sound and concerning the finishing touches, I should say, to a variety of different areas. We had the building, or we were supposed to have the building today inspected for occupancy, and I've not seen that certificate yet, but it may be very well on its way to me already. So right now it's furniture is coming in. We have a lot of it up and put together. We have others that we're waiting on. We had a shipment of teacher's desks and student chairs and file cabinets and all that that's not been delivered. It's supposed to be this week because part of the chairs got damaged and that kind of thing. So they'll try to deliver it all at one time. So we're right at that stage of putting that all together, and unfortunately we have a total of almost 4 weeks to the open house. So we expect to have everything finished, but there will continue to be some issues on different items and that kind of thing as they become operational. We are going through a process as we move, because this stage is so technical, the lighting, the sound and all that, that as we go through the process, we're involving our key people in there. For instance, all of the presentations that had to do with HVAC and plumbing, we kept that with our maintenance people. But when we get to the electricity and operation of electricity and the sound, for instance, then Mrs. Jokers and then we'll be there as superintendents this next year. This is Audie as the building operator, and then Otto, and then the key The key, three people that will be operating the sound, which is our three technicians led by Mr. Bowman, and then Nancy Toombs, and then Janet Swint. So, because those people will be alternating and assisting. The same is true with the operation of the projection room. When it comes to lights and curtains, Mrs. Jokers will be there for that presentation along with Mrs. Otto, and then Keith Swice, and then two of his maintenance people, who will be the two key people. One's electrician and one's not, to operate the lighting and set it and that kind of thing for any event, or if there's an event that requires a lot of change, then they would be there to effect that change. So we're trying to go with the key technicians to make sure that the same people are operating our sound, our projection, and our lighting, and our stage curtains all the time. And so that's kind of the direction that we're moving to give us some consistency there. So we expect everything to be well wrapped up and so forth, and this takes a long, long time. Sometimes it's like snail movement on a few items, and so finishing those finishing touches what really takes some time. But overall, very positive and so forth. So we want to stress to the public that our open house is scheduled for April the 15th. We'll start about 1 o'clock with tours and have some refreshments or so forth in the lobby. And then about 2 o'clock we'll invite some of the board members and a few other dignitaries up on the stage, and everybody will be able to come in and sit down, and we'll have a short presentation and that type of thing. And that's pretty well it. Okay.
What,
Sure.
on safety issues, any word from City Hall regarding the sidewalks?
No, nothing recently.
I got a comment.
Last thing I had came from you.
When you saw all those comments, were you just, insane?
Yeah. Every time I see the city administrator or whatever, I say something, but no. And that's totally out of our hands.
Yeah, it's,
I'm not sure that there's not some stalling on other people's parts, concerning funding and those kind of things.
it's not here, it's on someone else's desk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've not, well, we've served on committees, and Mrs. Joker's actually represented us on that committee, and, since then, huh? Grant, he wrote grant, originally. Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to unfinished business. First is graduation.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart?
It always comes up this time of year. We try to achieve several goals. One is trying to deal with the remainder of our school year and try to look at educationally what is the best direction to take, and then try to, in the past, we've always tried to have graduation on a weekend because of several reasons. One is because the people can come. Some schools don't do that, but we've always tried to do that so that people that work can get off and come in and so forth. And then we look at education with what is sound. There's probably 3 or 4 different choices and options that can be made out of the end of the year. Right now, by the makeup days in the possession that we have them, and we announced to everybody that makeup days are makeup days, and we may have a change. But the way they're set up is that right now we are out on Tuesday, May the 22nd. Yeah. So that's the makeup day. We've missed 3 days. We made 1 day up on Martin Luther Day, and then we had that Monday and Tuesday, the 21st and the 22nd of May. So that's where we're at. So there's a couple of ways we can go. We can extend the school year to that weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend, and we can have graduation on Saturday of that weekend, and have the same problem we have had in the past with state tracking. To do that, we would have to take like 3 days off somewhere between now and then, okay, and extend the school year out then. We could have it on that Sunday, like we did last year. One of the problems with that is we take Memorial Day away from a lot of people, okay, and they consider that disrupt that whole weekend because you're doing it on Sunday. You go in the reverse of that and move back and have graduation the last day of school on May the 18th, have graduation on that Saturday evening, May the 19th, but you have to take 2 days of what is presently scheduled as makeup days, but kept days off in between now and then. Right now, we're scheduled for the Thursday, the Friday, the Monday, and the Tuesday of Easter. We can take Thursday and Tuesday, still have a 4-day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and still have graduation last day of school on May the 18th, where it was originally scheduled, plus have graduation on the 19th. On the Saturday of the 19th, we are the host of sectional track on our track here, but that's different than district. It's real set and performs well, and the last event is scheduled to start at 4:30. So the buses and the students and the tracksters and all that should be long gone. If we have graduation at our normal time, which is 8 o'clock at that time of year, they should be long gone before that event, and we won't have to worry about kids flying back and from the event and that type of thing, trying to get back for graduation. We'll be right here. So we've talked about it with our staff, with our administrative staff, and they were all in agreement with going with the 19th as graduation because of educational reasons. They felt like by going back and taking those 2 days around Easter, they gave them a couple of highly prized days for instruction prior to testing at all levels, including the MAP test and also the ELC test that's completed on the high school level. And that would give them 2 more days of instruction prior to that taking place. So that's kind of where we're at.
Can I ask a couple of questions on this issue?
Sure.
And of course, I've gotten some calls from parents, but mostly concerned teachers. And I have a copy of this year's 2011-12 calendar. This calendar was, I believe, put together almost a year and 3 months ago by a committee. Is that true? When we crunched the numbers?
We do 2 things. We put out a proposed calendar, and then we make that public to everybody. And then we collect comments from any person who wants to. We collect those and summarize them. I bring those to the board, and also a summary sheet that shows different things that people want. And then the board finalizes the calendar at that next month's board meeting. And so it's put together in February with those makeup days installed in there, because we never know how much disruption we're going to have as far as bad weather is concerned and that type of thing.
But there's quite a few people that go into the assembly of this
Yes,
calendar,
there's a
which came out
committee.
last year.
There's a committee that then meets and reviews those comments, and then there's a recommendation that goes to the Board of Education. That committee is made up of staff people, administrators, and so forth.
Okay, my next question is, and once again, I'm trying to get this straight in my head so I can give answers to people who've asked me the question. This has been, as you know, the NBC Nightly News started off tonight with what a winner it wasn't.
Okay.
Okay, so people are asking, they seem to think and feel as if last year they were penalized by having 2 of their spring break days removed or subtracted for makeup days, so on and so forth. On here, the days that are being proposed now to be taken away on April 5th and 10th are makeup days 8 and 9. We haven't sure but three snow days. So I guess the attitude there by some people, teachers and parents, are that they're being penalized either when there is snow or penalized when there isn't snow. And I realize that you said people were made very aware of, that these could be makeup days, but we're not, in this instance here, I don't believe we're making anything up. It's just we didn't need them, okay? So I think people looking at the weather and the forecast and the statements that have been made on the news and the newspapers presume that somewhere in the early part of March or even February, we've got 6 days here. Let's, get tickets. Let's make plans for a more lengthy type spring break, because those days which are on this calendar will probably not be utilized going all the way over to number 8 and 9, because there'll be nothing to make up. My other question is, was a committee a part of these two proposals, and was the, for example, the MEA, the MSTA, every teacher in every building polled or questioned by their building administrators on, do you have plans, or what do you think about losing 2 of these 6 days?
No. If Moses had been in committee, then the Jews would still be cotton picking slaves in Egypt, okay? This is a dealing that we have to deal with. That's what you're elected for, it's a board of education to deal with. We do a committee as much as any other school district around to talk about the calendar. We have those days as makeup days. Yes, they're labeled. They are staged out. But right now, in our circumstances where we're at, there's really only one sensible thing as far as kids is concerned, and that's the recommendation there. That's the one for kids. Now, people who want to have vacations, okay, you're talking about teachers here mainly, all right? Okay, and parents, because it does affect parents, but we put out 2 emails within the last calendar year to staff people, so we're saying, don't schedule anything on these makeup days because they may be taken until the March board meeting. That's when we usually set graduation. And I don't know any other way to go about it except to list all those days as possible makeup days and don't put a number beside any one of them or something like that, but you're still doing the same thing. You know, if you listed all those as possible makeup days and the board could just pick and choose whenever they wanted to, but they would still be listed, nobody know when they would come up. We've tried to prioritize them in the past, but a lot of times we end up in a situation like this where you cannot predict. Nobody would have predicted last year that we were only going to have 3 snow days this year, and we're going to end up on a Tuesday in May. And then we've got to give and take. Which way do we go, and what do we make up? It's for me, personally, if we set graduation on Memorial Day, I see that as a personal barrier for me because I always have a total fear for those kids coming home from track. And it's been too many years since that's been true. I feel like setting the day on the 19th is extremely important. My building administrators feel that way to the 100th of them that do it that way because it's best education for kids. The high school, assistant high school principal say that gives us 2 more days for EEOCs before we have to give those tests. The elementary principal's the same thing. It's 2 more days of instruction. And so by doing it then, instead of doing it after the test normally have to be given or that window of testing.
I know we don't usually do this either, but could we just not have the seniors come back and graduate them on the 19th?
That's an option of the board.
And then the rest of the students would be here on the 21st and 22nd?
That's an option of the board.
So, would Mr. Haney like to say something?
If I may, yes. The only thing I want the board to be aware of, please, if you vote to do that, is that will give the seniors 5 days out. Because it takes at least 1 day to process their grades, their stuff, to see if they are going to graduate before we can even begin practice. We ran into this last year discussion. So we would have to cut the seniors loose of Tuesday the week before to have Wednesday to process and begin practice for Thursday
So
and Friday
I do realize
for
that.
Saturday graduation. I just want to make sure that we understood we were giving them 5 days to the
Do you
seniors.
think, I mean, I know ideally it would be best to have them in class those additional 2 days, but
I think
it's
it's,
just a lot to consider.
since you asked, I think it's doable, but my question is, you know, we keep talking about the parents that are going to be missing and the teachers, you know, what percentage of those, because I know in my building I've had one person bring a problem to me as a conflict over spring break. And I look at what we're giving back to the middle school in math testing and what we're giving us in EOC testing and the educational purposes by putting those days back at spring break. And I don't see the greater gain being by not putting them there. Because like I said, for me, it's been one person that's expressed a concern on my staff, one. So.
What about the other administrators, any contacts, the middle school, the elementary schools?
A couple of my staff members brought things up to me, but you know, they are aware that those are makeup days and they've been told not to schedule.
I've had a lot of teachers concerned about it because it was day 8 and 9. So.
The suggestion that Mrs. Dunsey made is similar to what, and I just have contacts in the two districts that I talked to. For example, in Rockwood this year, the seniors are finished, done, cut loose, graduated, everything on May 19th, like Mrs. Dunsey said. All other students report to and go to school through May 24th, which puts the rest of the students out before Memorial Day, which sounds like a pretty good deal. And in your case, Mr. Stewart, you wouldn't have to worry about that, the hecticness of that Memorial Day graduation.
I understand what you're saying. My argument is real clear that educationally, we don't need to do that. We've got schools right in our neighborhood, right around us here, who do a variety of things that I don't think's right. They let their seniors out 2 weeks ahead of time. I don't think that's right. I think they should go, you know, if you give them 2 or 3 days at the end, which we normally do, so it's, like Mr. Haney says, you need that to get grades and all that stuff. I think that's appropriate. I think that that's always true. I think over the years, the state has forgiven for, they've forgiven us for snow days, okay? One time, we've taken 1 day, where other schools around us take whatever is available. And I think that's one of the reasons this school district stands a little bit above other folks, is because of those kind of things. We've taken 1 day, and the only reason we did was we were roped into a situation where we would have had to take the day after Memorial Day weekend. And we graduated our seniors that weekend, and we'd had to take that Tuesday afterwards, and then we chose to take the out as far as the weather's concerned. And I think that's important. I think you stressed the importance of education to kids. You concentrate on what's best for kids and like what their test scores are and those kind of things. I asked both of these principals here in the administrative meeting in this room about that, and they both said that it would give them 2 more days to teach, and their teachers 2 more days to teach, to get ready for the tests that they have because of when those holidays are. And so you go for the next one. Mr. Haney just said the same thing as far as trying to coordinate with seniors. We've always tried to stand the line on those days and do it appropriately. And right now, we can still have a 4-day holiday at Easter, and we can still have graduation on the 19th, and not have to worry about track, and have everybody out and students finished on the 18th.
Is there any way that you could ask either the principals or the committee to go back and look at this and approve May 19th as the date for graduation, keep intact the 6 days of spring break, and give also the building administrators those days needed to do better on preparing for the MAP and the EOC. I mean, and extend the school year later after graduation for grades K through 11.
Well, that's where we're at right now if we do nothing at all. If you had graduation on the 19th, and you said we're going to go to that Tuesday, the 22nd and 23rd, that's where we're at right now. I mean, that's, you know, guys coming back Monday and Tuesday and having graduation on the 19th, and letting the seniors out 5 days early instead of the normal 3 for a trip and 2 practices. And that's what it takes, you know that. It takes a couple of days of practice, and then still you have kids at graduation not functioning well and that kind of thing. That's, you know, that's the situation you get into, and then how far do you extend that earlier, and how many days do you end up giving, and all those kind of things.
Well, I think, as far as next year, definitely take the, let me wrong this
Don't number the days.
Don't label those days, and just put down, and I think we all really know this, and it's been said, but put in there that those 2 days at Easter will be makeup days if needed. That way, if we have that in there, but let's just unlabel these, or, you know.
Well, we can give you a modified schedule next month,
Yeah,
you know, where it's the same schedule that you've approved,
right.
but at the same time,
You just take that off.
instead of numbering those days, they're just all makeup days,
Right.
pure and simple. And then you pick
Using
and
it
choose.
anytime.
Right.
Carl, I've got Francis got a relative going to school next year at the Francis Howell School District. And I believe that's one that you used to talk to us about that almost goes year-round with longer, more breaks periodically throughout the year and less summer. On this one here next year, their Easter break will be from the 11th of March till the 24th of March, which is 2 weeks. However, it states in here that the 11th and the 12th and the 13th could be used as makeup days, which would still give them, at this time to now, book flights and rooms the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th through the 23rd and 4th. So what I'm saying is, you know, like in this district here for next year, I think our parents look forward to booking and planning things, especially in the conditions now where there's been such a mild winter, using very few, only 3 snow days.
We can do that. I mean, we can bring that calendar back with more specifics along those lines and so forth. I'll ask Mrs. Jokers to do that since it's her calendar.
Julie, what feedback
Mrs.
did you
Jokers,
get?
would you like to do that?
If that's what you want me to do.
I would do that. I didn't have anyone talk to me about conflicts, but they were questioning why it's snow day number 8 and 9. And I kept telling them, you know, we have a map testing window and this would give us 2 more days.
And if we do something like that this year, we're talking about time on task. You know, next year we have the flexibility without putting a number here of having those days at, you know, Easter time. Because people are, they're fixed on that 8 and 9. That 8 and 9, you got 8 and 9 there. If you don't have a number there, there is no 8 and 9.
And
Is that
Mr.
the
Crowder,
board's
that does then allow people to go ahead and book a flight for that Friday or Thursday evening. And they still have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Those are protected, those are all, you know, nobody's gonna touch those, just as you said, the Francis Howell thing was. You know, that if, I mean, they know that day and that day potentially could be used, so don't book those. But they do know that the others are protected and would not be used.
We used to be
So-
that, those were 4 days that were, they were.
We've done it both ways. It seems like every year that we did it without making them makeup days, we had one of those huge snow years, and then you got it listed as not makeup days. So we've tried it both ways, and it's always an issue. You know my philosophy, I think we should be going 220 days to school instead of 174 anyway, and all that. I think we're missing the boat in comparison to other countries. Even in this country, Missouri is one of 8 school districts that goes 174, and all the other states go more, up to 220. And I think we're missing the boat constantly. Teachers don't want to do it.
I'm the one that said I think we need to take it back.
Okay.
Some states
I
have
know
gone,
you hate me for that. But I
some,
think it's
Florida
important.
has gone year round in some places, in some cases they've gone back year round. You know,
I know a couple
It's
school
gone both
districts
ways.
that's done it. They tried for a couple of years, and their districts, they felt it didn't work. Some, some of them.
Some have had to because of the size of their buildings, and
Yeah,
over enrollment
that's what happened.
and stuff like that. That's what Francis Howell was doing, yeah. That was all had to do with enrollment, the size of their buildings.
They were growing so fast they couldn't keep up.
Yeah, they were doing 3 semesters, and each kid went 2 of those semesters.
Well, Ms. Jokers, how does the rest of the board go? I would like for her to bring back to us next month. Just the calendar, the same calendar, just take those off and pretty well state that these are all
We can
big
take
updates.
Sure.
That way,
I'd
everybody.
be glad to bring that to you.
That will fix
Absolutely.
12-13.
Right.
That doesn't do anything.
That doesn't fix tonight. And taking it tonight, you really need to go ahead and set the date tonight, taking it back to the administrative staff to talk to their teachers. There's too much time. We need to go ahead and get a graduation date so that our Jostens folks can print up announcements and people can make plans and things of that nature. So I don't feel like polling the staff, taking the time to poll the staff again at this point is probably a good idea, but, you know, certainly we can make that adjustment for next year to try to make sure everybody knows which days are certainly protected and which may not be.
Mr. Stewart did an excellent job of pointing out that this letter that we received earlier in the evening is anonymous, which we don't put a lot of grain of salt towards. However, it does point out that in some of these other school districts, like for example Francis Howell, they know now that their 3 high schools are graduating in the year 2013 on June 1st. So they know that now. So I think one of the things that would also be helpful is if we could look in the future of scheduling that a year in advance, so that this, some of the aspects of what's written in here would be addressed and we could avoid that.
My concern with that, Mr. Crowther, is that I don't know if at Francis Howell everybody walks or no. Because if everybody walks, regardless of whether they've actually going to receive a diploma or not, we could set graduation date for now till 10 years in the future. We'll just have it on that day. The issue is, in this district, we don't allow just anyone to walk in graduation. We say you must have earned the diploma because we're going to hand it to you that night. And therefore, we need time before graduation to get finals turned in, make sure they're graded, get those last averages in, make sure everybody's got their credits, make sure, you know, valedictorian and salutatorian are selected appropriately, and that kids have time for graduation practice, and that we get that all done accordingly. At some districts who have a set graduation date, and it's going to be this day no matter what, they don't do that. They just say, you know, yeah, we'll have graduation, everybody come and walk across stage, and whenever we decide whether or not everybody's getting a diploma, we'll send you your diploma. So that's a whole different, I mean, it's a different philosophy, and if that's what you all want to do, we can certainly set graduation dates in stone very far ahead of time. If not, then we're going to if we're going to continue the way we are now, then we have to wait until we know exactly when that last day of school for seniors is going to be, when those finals are going to be, and give our staff time to process that information and make sure that we are 100% certain that every kid who walks across that stage has earned a St. Genevieve High School diploma when we put it in their hands. So that's a difference of philosophy that if you all make a change, we will certainly work with. But I think you have had a long-standing tradition here that graduation night is pretty important, and that they have really done something when they have gotten that diploma that night.
And that was started in 1982 was the first year, and there in the 80s, that was always an issue, because prior to that, they did let everybody walk there whether they'd earned the diploma or not. And we stood the ground on that for a number of years, and it's no longer an issue today. But she's exactly right, to try to get that all accomplished and so forth is a major challenge, you know.
I would guess if we called Francis how they let everybody walk. I don't know how you can set graduation date a year in advance.
At least everybody is eligible to last
Yeah,
semester.
yeah.
So I know that Mrs. Giesler said that she wasn't aware of this. Do you think most of the faculty and staff are aware of the changes?
I know all of the middle school and high school folks are. I don't really know.
My building was, we talked about it in faculty meeting after our last admin meeting, told them that it was a possibility.
Not knocking down doors. And most of them are very aware that anything that's scheduled as a makeup day is a makeup day, and it has to have attention by parents. Can't speak for that.
And you know, I understand parental concern, but if parents have their student, if they've got a trip planned and they want to take their child and go on a trip Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you know, just like any other time of the school year when parents take a vacation and take a trip and their kids are out of school, we work with those parents. We always have. And you know, we can get kids their work in advance. They can do it when they come back. Any number of ways can be. So, you know, as far as a parent saying, oh, you know, I've got plans made and I can't do anything about it, that's okay. We will work with you as we have always worked with parents when they have things scheduled.
How about a teacher if they've made plans already?
That's a whole different story, Mr. Crowther, because we have been telling them that makeup days could be used. So I think we need to, you know, look at that individual basis.
Well, as you all know, this is, we're gonna make somebody mad, no matter what decision we make tonight. There's 3 decisions, possibilities we can make. 2 probably are better than the 1. But when we do make this decision tonight, I want you all to know that we're doing it for the right reason. We're doing it for the kids. We're doing it for the school district. So please take that in mind when we make this decision and don't throw darts at it.
remember that by moving back to Easter, okay, and using those 2 days, you are helping the students to get ready for testing, rather than vacations and that kind of thing. You're helping kids 2 more days get ready for testing, whether it's a math or whether it's a ELs or BRCs. So that's my point. That's why that recommendation is as it is.
And Mr. Haney, last year we had this sort of same kind of discussion because I remember you saying to us, please not to do it, and I can't remember for life of me, I think Mrs. Jokers was telling me, the reason not to have it at that, or not to have it that one day because it was too much for your secretaries?
Yeah, what had happened the year before, and this was a rookie mistake on my part, was we had the last day of seniors, and then we came back the very next day and had our first day of practice. And that basically meant that, in particular, one of my secretaries didn't sleep that night and trying to process through grades and get everything taken care of. And that's why I had asked to make sure that we have at least one day for processing the grades. That's usually the senior trip day, and that's why when I spoke with Ms. Dunsey earlier, I'd said it probably would put us at 5 days because we've got to have 2 for practice, 1 for that processing day. We really need the 3 days before we walk. And that's why I said with those 3 plus the 2 more coming back the next week would be 5 days out for seniors. There's simply no way we can have a senior last day and come back the very next day and graduate and not eventually kill somebody or something, or us kill each other or something, because it's just mind-numbing to try to get it all done.
Is that much work to be done?
It's huge. It's
So, Mr.
huge.
Haney, your preference would be us to go the 2 days at Easter break and everybody get out on the 18th?
Well, I'm going to say that educationally speaking, I think that's the thing that makes the most sense. Because I will also say, and Julie may argue me on this, when I looked at their map testing and I saw that they basically have 1 day off before, when I say off, that there's 1 day they're not testing before spring break and 1 day after spring break, and then they're right back into testing. I had some concern like, wow, you're going to give your kids 6 days off right in the middle of map window. And I was just really concerned for, that's a lot of time educationally off with very little time to review and get them fired back up before you head right back into testing. And this minimizes that time off. It still gives us a nice week in 4 days. It minimizes that time off, but it gives 2 days before and 2 days after to instructionally better prepare those kids, get them fired back up after that break. To me, it just educationally for map testing on their end makes more sense. You know, we kicked around taking a few 3-day weekends and adding on to the year like we did last year. The problem with that is that kills me in EOC testing because I've got to have those full weeks in the beginning of May, and that would just wipe that out. So, I mean, we truly are a rock and a hard place. I think educationally speaking, that's the move that makes the most sense. But I understand there's a lot of argument about 8 and 9.
Do you, as administrators, feel that if we took those numbers out, that would solve some things?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's one thing we did discuss, thinking that, you know, that's not really, it was just, I think it was just put in there just for, I don't know, I think it was just put in there schedule. Yeah, that's what it is. You know, it was just, I mean, not really set in stone for any, I mean, you know, it could have been broken back. But, it is there, and I understand their reasoning for that. Anyway, so, does anyone else have any more discussion? Does anyone else have anything to say about this?
There won't be an 8 and 9 on that next year.
Absolutely. There won't be a 1 or 2 either.
Hung up on that 8 and 9.
I move to approve the graduation 2012 ceremony to be held on Saturday, May 19th May 19th, 2012 at 8 p.m. in the high school gymnasium, and declare Thursday, April 5th and Tuesday, April 10th as makeup days.
Second.
Carrie, that was you. Okay, but I have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Can I ask, are they makeup days? They're really just gonna be days in session, right? Because we don't have any days to make up, do we?
Yeah,
We got it.
Yeah.
We missed 3 days, and we made up 1, so we got 2 days to make up.
Yes.
You want to roll call on what there is?
estimated tax rate. Mr. Stewart?
This is one of those frustrating things, that this is the second year we've done this, but to protect the district, I think we need to, and several schools in our area are still doing this. 2007, the state passed a law in reaction to some increases in property taxes that required the county assessor to give estimated assessment out by March of each year, and that public entities approve a non-binding estimated tax rate for the upcoming year by April of each year. This was to be implemented for our county last year. 2 years ago, the state passed a law, Senate Bill 588, that said assessors didn't need to do this until the state tax commission provided assessors with funds needed to purchase software required to perform this requirement in a timely manner. They did not include school districts. They failed to do that. And therefore, the aspect pertaining to schools is still there. There are experts that say schools do not need to take this action. The penalty is a reduction of 20% if you do not follow the law, and that's what the law is still on the books is. I would prefer to you to approve the attached letter to the county clerk rather than take a chance, okay? So I'm recommending that you approve the following letter, which uses just simply a letter to Mrs. Bosler that says exactly what our tax rate is this year, and that's our best estimate. And that's all we could do if she had all the information, the assessor had all the information to us. So it's just a formality, but I'm not willing to take that chance for 20% reduction in our local taxes. Do you understand that? Do you have questions?
I move to approve the attached letter to the county clerk as presented.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we'll move on to new business. First is health insurance.
Turn it over to Mrs. Joker, she said.
As you can see, we have our rates in here, the medical summary provided by United Healthcare. And if you look at that, you'll see that the board paid option is highlighted for you there. And we've met with the insurance committee, presented the same exact information to them. And the only changes really that we will see is that the specialist office copay goes from $40 to $45, so a $5 increase there. Emergency room visit goes from a $250 copay to a $300 copay. And then there will be a $100 deductible added to the tier 2 and 3 drug card. So if you're on a tier 1 drug, there's no change at all, okay? This is just for the tier 2 and tier 3 drugs. So really these are fairly minimal changes to our plan. In addition to that, overall, there is a new certificate of coverage that will go into effect. There are a few slight changes there from our 2007 certificate of coverage. We are taking that certificate of coverage now rather than waiting until it's required next year. By taking it now, we get a full 1% decrease in our decrease in our increase, if you will. We started off with about an 8 or 9% overall increase, and so we've done these things to whittle it down, to reduce the increase is really what we're trying to get out here. Overall, we're at about a 5% increase, and you'll see down at the bottom there, it's $383.14 currently is what the board is paying on each employee, and that would go to $402.30, and that's about a 5% increase. On this, you also see the other plans that we have available as a district. The little bit better plan that folks buy up to sometimes is a 6% overall with a few little adjustments there that are similar to the adjustments on our main plan. And then you have a couple of HSA options which are both 6% increases in their costs also. So the Mineral Area Consortium has been very effective in keeping our rates pretty steady, and you'll see that in our history. You can see that our rates have gone up only slightly, and instead of the big jumps that we've had in the past, you'll see that in the last few years they've just been very minimal increases, and we've been very lucky about that. Main reason being is when you're in a consortium, you have more lives to spread the cost over, okay? In our district this year, we were over 100% of our claims ratio for the first time in a long, long time. And, you know, normally we've been the lower end of that. We've been like the 70 and 80% claims ratios, and the other schools in the consortium have had the over 100% claims ratio. Well, this year it's kind of switched, and so if we were out there by ourselves, man, our rates would have jacked way up this year. And you know, sometimes you have a problem even getting insurance companies to bid on you. So we feel really good that the 5% increase is what we're able to attain. The insurance committee voted unanimously to recommend to you all to adopt this particular insurance program.
Plus, an emphasis is put on the employees to ask for the generic brand.
That's right.
Have you got a figure there? Mike, you had a figure, didn't you, how much paid out for?
Actually, I didn't bring that with me, Terry, but I'll kind of try to explain it. This $100 deductible on those tier 2 and 3 drugs, what we're hoping to accomplish there, and what insurance companies are hoping to accomplish, is that folks will ask for the tier 1 generic drugs when it's possible and when it's available. You know, if you've not been having to meet a deductible, you just go ahead and pay the higher cost for the more pricey drug, when there may be an acceptable alternative in a tier 1 fashion, okay? And that saves us all money if they're not having to pay out so much for those tier 2 and tier 3 drugs, which are sometimes unbelievably costly. A price per dosage over $1,000 sometimes per dose. So you're talking about astronomical amounts on these tier 2s and tier 3s. Right now, we're just still operating with 3 tiers. There's some insurance groups that have gone to 4 tiers and 5 tiers, and really, you know, some of those tier 5 drugs are, and the co-pays on them are outrageous as well. So the fact that we're still on just a 3-tier plan is really good for us, and we have to become educated and wise consumers of healthcare, and that includes learning to look for and be proactive about asking for those lesser cost drugs when it's at all possible. And so meeting a deductible, $100 deductible for one of those higher cost drugs maybe can help the rest of us keep the tier 1 drugs at a very reasonable rate on our co-pays. So that's kind of really what it boils down to, is the tier 1 drugs, I want to say it was something like $500,000 was paid out in tier 1 drugs by like 2,700 prescriptions, okay? So that was tier 1. In about 800 prescriptions, you had roughly the same amount in tier 2 and 3 drugs. About, I want to say it was $500,000, but that's the general gist of it. 2,700 prescriptions costing about the same as 800 prescriptions of those more pricey drugs. And so that's really the impetus behind the $100 deductible, is to try to help us all, encourage and motivate us all to look into those lesser cost tier 1 drugs when it's appropriate.
When Mrs. Jokers pointed out there, Blue Cross and other major companies have went from 4 and 5. And some of those highest paid drugs, which is in our tier 3, you know, they're running well over $1,000 a year, $2,000 per drug, per prescription, not just, it's
outrageous.
The cost of some of those items. And we'll probably have to be looking at something like that in the near future, because I think Wall Street is planning, this is our 3rd year with United, and they're planning next year to bid this out. And so we're looking at that seriously. And so we get these other companies now, including Blue Cross Blue Shield and so forth, we're looking at tier 4 or tier 5. And, it's because of those unusual costs that are out there.
And if anybody knows I don't know how many people know this, but you can ask your doctor for coupons.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, we
Drug,
learned that.
drug coupons?
Yes, we learned that at our insurance thing at the Line Kill, and the lady that came talk to us about our insurance said that you go and you ask your doctor as well. I'm gonna try that. Well, my prescription was $50 every 3 months, now it's 10.
Wow.
So,
Good. Thank you.
you're welcome.
We'll
And
all be
that's-
asking.
That's anybody, it doesn't make a difference who you are, whatever, if they have them, yeah. if they have them, you're good. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? We'll move on to, oh, I'm sorry, we got to vote for that.
I move to approve the attached health insurance proposal with United Healthcare through the MAHIC.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is the bid, window bid, Mr. Stewart.
As we had presented to you before, we broke this remaining windows down into 3 areas. And basically, they were the shop part of the VOAG, because that's the worst spot, and also some tuck pointing involved in that, some closing up of some windows and new. And then the annex onto the junior high that was built in '68. And then part of the high school, which includes the north wall of the shops and the home ec area, the fax classroom, and also the end of the shops on this end, above the auto mechanics, that shop room. And so those have vents in them that need to be replaced and so forth. So what we did was we had several people show up to bid, or show up for the walkthrough, but some of them were window companies that simply turned around and subbid to the contractors themselves. But in your board packet there, you have a summary of the bid sheet and that type of thing. We ended up with 3 proposals. One of them came from the Wilson Group, and in the base bid, they were drastically below everyone else. And so if you look at that, just have to find the right sheet. There it is. So if you look at that, that's the first sheet of the tallies, okay? On the back side of the letter from the Wilson Group. You can see that the the low bid was the Wilson Group for the base bid of $32,820. And then that Herzog was next at $90,600 and Dunsey at $93,174. So both of those are really close, right? So the automatic thing is Wilson left something out. We discussed with them. We basically found out that they had left out all of the masonry. They thought that the plans called for a specified amount per square foot of masonry. What you could do on that is you could take their bid and assume their bid bond and all that when they didn't show up for that amount. We think it was a legitimate mistake on their part. So they have asked to be released and so forth from their bid. Their bid on alternate 1 and 2 was above, and that's on the next page. Was a mixture and so forth. And the alternate 1, their bid was $85,848. Herzog was less than that, was $74,200, and Dunsey was $91,569. That would have been the annex. And then the bid on the high school part, Wilson Group was the highest with $35,163. Herzog was again with the lowest with $21,400, and Dunsey at $28,076. And so you can see again that Herzog and Dunsey was pretty close on that alternate bid number 2, although Herzog came in lower than everybody else on the alternate bid number 1. So as a base of that, if you look over at the far right on that page, it gives you the total of all those. And because of their low bid on number one, the Wilson Group is at $153,831. Herzog is at $186,200, and Dunsey is at $212,819. So again, back to the Wilson Group, I don't think we want to put a company in the wrong position. This is a company out of Kansas City that does quite a bit of business. They have good background references and so forth. I think they simply made a drastic mistake on that base bid, and their letter asked for them to be released from that bid. If they did that, then we would be recommending that Herzog be awarded the bid for actually all three of the projects. Now, you might say, well, how much money do we have left in the bond issue? We have a maximum of $144,000, and the combined bid of all three of those for Herzog is a total of $186,200, okay? So that's approximately $42,000 above what we have in bond issue money. We carry a balance of over $500,000 in our building fund. This would actually be paid on next year's budget because it's not going to be finished till late July or early August. But our recommendation would be to go ahead and do those three projects and to release the Wilson Group from, and allow them to accept their withdrawal letter and approve the base bid and both alternate bids for Herzog Construction, spending what monies we have left in bond issue this year, and also some additional funds out of our building fund to wrap up this bid and do this project. So,
You know what, at this 153 that the Wilson Group had, they're only 33,000.
yeah, that's because they were over on the alternate 1 and 2. They were above.
Yeah, but they're only, they're only like 33,000
Well,
less than what,
right.
you know, even if they did go on that other bid, if they come back, or came back and bid to make their, they could possibly be even higher
Yeah,
than.
well, they're high on alternate 1 and 2,
Yeah.
quite a bit higher than
Right.
either, especially Herzog, I should say. Dunsey's a little high on alternate 1 and so forth. Their bid just simply does not include any masonry. And we asked both when we were in the bid opening in here, with the architect and myself and so forth, and all the contractors there, except Wilson. Wilson had brought their contract in and dropped it off. We asked at that time the two other contractors approximately the dollars that they had in masonry, and that was pretty well, that would put the Wilson Group up there above the other bidders, but still competitive like their other bids. So,
I'm glad we can keep it local.
Just a comment, says he admitted he did not actually see the building. I think I'd sure hate to make estimates on something I didn't actually see.
okay. What are you talking about?
That's in the withdrawal letter.
Oh, within the withdrawal.
So he admitted he did not actually see the building. We're here.
I move to accept the withdrawal letter from the Wilson Group and to approve the base bid in both alternate 1 and 2 by Herzog Construction
Second.
in the amount of $186,200.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, Mr. McLeod.
On the page. I move that the Board of Education hold a closed meeting with a closed record and closed vote following the regular open meeting on April 16, 2012 to be held in the R.W. Thomas Library, 715 Washington Street, St. Genevieve, Missouri, for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: legal action, cause of action, or litigation; lease, purchase, or sale of real estate; hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees; scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals; testing and examination materials; preparations for negotiation with employee groups; specifications for competitive bidding until approved or published; sealed bids and related documents until the bids are open; sealed proposals and related documents until all proposals are rejected, or any documents related to a negotiated contract until a contract is executed; individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment; records protected from disclosure by law; records relating to municipal hotlines established for the reporting of abuse and wrongdoing, confidential or privileged communications with an auditor, existing or proposed security systems and structural plans of district property, records that identify and would allow unauthorized access to or unlawful disruption of the configuration of components or the operation of a computer, computer system, computer network, or telecommunications network, credit card numbers, personal identification numbers, digital certificates, physical and virtual keys, access codes or authorization codes that are used to protect electronic transactions. Anybody want to add something? I've further moved the notice of this meeting and its tentative agenda be posted as required by law. Motion second, roll call, Eric Bosler.
Yes.
Charlie Crowther.
Yes.
John Dudley.
Yes.
Jim Kirchner.
Yes.
Terry McDaniel, yes. Martha Reesinger. Yes. Motion carries 6-0.
I move to go to closed session with a closed record and a closed vote after a short break.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye. Opposed? Thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you next time.